obviously.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Going to put it all together. This is big things. Doing big things. We ain't in the same league. Running a campaign. Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die. Put me in charge. I'm a general from the front. I'ma lead the charge. Like a fella. Fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. This is your first time tuning in. You catch all of our amazing episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. This show is ran in collaboration with the FEU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Dr. Kevin Cox and Richelle Peña, who is running HealthBiz Mastery. So to kick things off, Richelle, tell us a little bit about your business.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm going to take you back. I'm a pharmacist, and I turned entrepreneur when my husband and I decided to go into business together and build a pediatric dental business. Scaled that to 7 locations, exited in 2021, and now we want to give back to all the pain points that we learned building a business as healthcare professionals, not having an entrepreneurship class or any business knowledge. And we created HealthBiz Mastery, where we're teaching healthcare professionals not the clinical side, the business side. 50% of what healthcare professionals do is clinical, their clinical knowledge. But the other 50% of their success is how much they know about business.
So I go around campus, different colleges, different locations, and out in the community. I just got back from the Delray Chamber of Commerce You Grow series. And that's something I talk about a lot, but I can't always convince everybody that there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs out there, and they may or may not know it, right? If you're into performing arts, if you're some type of artist, you need to be an entrepreneur. You won't be performing for long. If you're a physician, if you're a dentist, you're probably at some point, if you're successful, going to be running your own practice. What about a law firm? If you want to go out on your own and create your own law firm? Well, all these things are functionally businesses, and all those people are functionally entrepreneurs, but their traditional expertise, they never cover business. They cover law, they cover medicine, they cover what they really need to know, and they just have to figure out the business stuff. So I guess that's where you come in.
Yeah. We call it the curriculum blind spot. And there's a book. It's called E-Myth. I highly recommend you guys read it. Just because you're a good baker does not mean that you're going to be good at owning a bakery. It goes way more into just baking cookies. It's marketing, it's finances, it's hiring team members. And just like in our healthcare profession, we got maybe one class of business. And I went in 2000, I'm going to age myself, just 20 years ago. I went from intern to pharmacy manager at Target Corporation. And within 2 weeks, I had a regional manager come and fire questions. I was like, hi, I'm so happy to be here. I'm the new pharmacy manager. I knew everything about drugs, doses, how they worked in you. And he was like, so tell me your revenue goals and how are you going to surpass them? And all this, honestly, it sounded like I didn't know. I didn't know what to say. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to learn quick so that I can earn and keep my seat at the table.
Well, let's talk about your first jump, right? When you had a W-2 income and shifting over to making all those decisions and having to start from scratch and have income coming in. Tell us what that was like.
From the pediatric dental business, right? Yeah. Well, in 2011, I was pregnant with my first baby, and my husband, because of my business knowledge and operations, hiring, marketing, I love Target. So I learned so much in acquisitions there. I was hiring pharmacists. And so when he asked me to open a business with him, you know what we did? In 2011, we moved back in with my parents. 30 years old, new baby.
Sweet.
Yep.
No.
No, not really. But you know what? You got to do what it takes. And when you're going to go and ask the bank for $1 million loan to start a business, and not an easy one, a pediatric dental business where we were saturated in Pembroke Pines, over 13 pediatric dentists that surrounded us. It was scary. 6 months later, I found out I was pregnant with my second baby. Still living with my parents at that time. It was really hard, but we had that hustle. We had a strong vision and mission for our company, and that was our anchor, in our mindset. In entrepreneurship, you have to know why. Why are you in business, and what sets you apart? Because you can love baking cookies, and my husband could love seeing children and fixing their teeth, but that passion is not going to take you to success if you don't understand why you're in business.
So tell us what the hardest thing was that first 12 months.
Ooh, the first 3 months, we were running out of cash quick, and it was really scary. But it's almost like when you first start dating someone, it's the honeymoon phase. We had our brand new office and our team members. We were so excited. I mean, I came from Target, so I had everything branded, business cards. We looked legit. We had a Google business page, website. We were doing everything that they told us we needed, but we had no patience. Like,
the old marketing problem, Kevin.
the-
Isn't this always the
What?
case?
Wait a
Everyone
minute. I thought you
thinks
just-
they'll build it and it will come, right?
Yeah.
Well, you just do the grand opening, and then you hope you don't have too many customers. But the truth is, you open the doors and nothing really happens. And for the students listening, any medical and anything tangentially related to medicine, dentistry, it's going to have a real healthy burn rate. And a burn rate, if you're not familiar with the jargon, is how much money gets burned month over month, right? So how much does it cost to keep this facility open? That's just burning money, literally. You still have to pay your bills, whether or not there are customers. And dental practice is going to have a high one, a lot of expensive equipment, a lot of insurance. You have a commercial grade facility, hopefully at a good location. So the lease is going to be super expensive, or you own a building and
Healthcare
that's going to be
costs,
expensive. Benefits.
401k.
Yeah. The list goes
Salaries,
on.
and
So
just-
you need those customers. So what'd you guys do?
Yeah.
Well,
marketing. Let's figure how did you
I
figure this
mean,
out?
marketing, within 3 months, I mean, we invested. You got to make money. You got to spend money to make money. So we did the Google ads. There was no Instagram yet. So we did Facebook ads, and they were bringing patients, but not enough to carry forward our expenses. And we would do also guerrilla marketing. My husband's pretty handsome, and I was like, listen, get these box of donuts. Let's split up. You go to these pediatricians, I go to other pediatricians, and let's be in their face. Who are they referring to, right? So that was one. And we started signing up for find where your client is. Ours was kids. So I was everywhere moms were, schools, any events, Googling, joining every single chamber of commerce, but it still wasn't enough. 3 months in, guess what? I was back in a white lab coat, back at Target, begging for my job back because we needed to at least have my salary to pay our team members. Within 2 months of going back to work, I quit again because finally the marketing had paid off. All the events that I was signing up to, the hustle, patients were finally coming in.
And what was your relationship like with your husband? I know that when relationships go through tough times and there's less money coming in, there's more fighting. You have 2 children, right? Like what was going on during those times? Just like be brutally honest, because so often this is the other side of entrepreneurship that no one ever sees and talks about, right?
Yeah.
We see everything that's so fluffy on the internet. You're taking pictures together, you're all dressed up, but like behind the scenes, like, a lot of people go through divorces because, they run out of money and they fight so much in business.
Mhm.
And lots of times they blame the other partner potentially. And it's really tough times when you're going through this.
Yeah. Well, when we were going through this, we're like the yin and yang, right? So number one, I highly do not recommend going into business with your partner. If you already if you argue about things and your communication's not good. So with me, I would lean on, you know what? We got this. We got this. We just got to figure it out. We both had that growth mindset and we both had the same vision. I was like, look, patients are coming in. It just takes time. So we both had grit. The many like sleepless nights that followed in the 10-year tenure that we were in business. Yeah, there was many nights where I was like the rock, like, okay, we got this. Don't worry. We're going to push through it. I found my faith, actually. I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up that way, but I really found God in the midst of all this, like just holding on to anything, because I'm sorry, alcohol, it's not gonna fix it. But yeah, we had some tough times, but I will say, because we had the same like drive and mission towards something, we kept each other in balance.
Well, many of the students in this entrepreneurship class have reported that they want to start a business at some point. So, question related to that, if you were going to give somebody who wanted to start a business one piece of advice, what would it be?
You need to be a continuous learner and find a mentor. You don't want to do this alone. Trust me. This is why we started our second business, HealthBiz Mastery, because we felt alone. There was things that my husband and I couldn't tell our team members because we would scare them and they would leave, right? So, consultants are very costly, but nowadays there's communities. There's, you go back to your school, find mentors that can help you get through it. That's the number one advice that I would give. And focus on reading books that you can learn. There are people who have done this before. We read books on Airbnb, the Container Store, the shoe Zappos. You have to learn. Leaders are readers.
So yeah, and you're already in a good spot. We covered a ton of that stuff throughout the course, and I could probably find all of you a mentor depending on what you're looking for. Hell, we have enough past episodes of this show and people that have been successful on it in every sector.
So, Richelle, talk a little bit more about community. So often I see students graduate from college. I myself did the same thing. And then all of a sudden, everyone scatters, right? For me, I went to University of Delaware. I went to New York City. And all of a sudden, you have your friend groups, but all of a sudden, they thin out in your 20s. All of a sudden, people get married. They shift states. And then all of a sudden, entrepreneurship gets quite lonely, right? It's not that lonely when you have all your friends and you could hang out on the weekends. But then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a second, how did I get here when you turn 30? And all of a sudden you're going into a WeWork or an office space by yourself, or you're working from home. Right. And all of a sudden, like you're saying, it is a lonely environment often because in those early days, usually you don't have any staff, right? And and you lean on certain communities. So can you speak to community and what you would advise if someone is a solo entrepreneur getting going, like who they could look for? Because everyone says this, but like most of the time, like, is it the Chamber of Commerce? Like, how do you find the right one?
That's a hard question to ask. How do you find the right one? You have to put yourself out there, number one. And you know what? Try different things. Because if you just stick to the Chamber of Commerce, or, you go to your local mom or women entrepreneur meetup, you might not find the right one right away. And one that I'm part of, the Entrepreneurship League, is an amazing women entrepreneur community where we all talk online and we talk about, okay, we're having this issue. How can we handle it? There's even a podcast you can listen to. And then they have local meetups. So what I would suggest is find a community online. There's a lot that are free now, especially after COVID. So many communities have come together, and then make sure that there's a way for that community to actually meet up locally as well. I mean, that's the best way to do it, because it can get really, really lonely. Like you mentioned, you graduate from college, you have your friends from your dorms, you guys are all doing the same thing. And this happens even in healthcare. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into your work environment and you're just surrounded by the same people 8 hours a day. Outside, you got to do your part and find your tribe.
And do some real research. Look hard on the internet, right? Like really dig into where these things are. Unfortunately, there's a ton of hype and excitement and like motivational type of content. You want to avoid that. You want to avoid anything that sounds too fast, too easy, and cost a bunch of money, right? Like if you see a group or a master class that's like 60 days to 6 figures, that one's a scam, right? Like I don't know if that's a real one, but if it is, I'm sure it's a scam, right? Like you want to find actual people that aren't just trying to sell stuff that says you're going to make a bunch of money, because usually the only people making a bunch of money are the people selling that stuff.
Yeah. And good point. because I see this get rich mentality that, oh my God, I won't join those groups. I actually will find the founders and I want to hear their story. You know, the best communities are the people who give a lot of information on the front end. And for my husband and I, we started a community called HealthBiz Connect. And I mean, overnight, we have just gained so many followers because we're not talking about teeth. We're talking about the real stuff that happens in business. And at the end of it, there's no hook of, I'm going to help you get rich in 6 days. No, we talk about mindset, mental health, leadership, how to get loans, legal, everything that you need to know as an entrepreneur. So definitely, I don't follow the gimmicky ones.
Okay, Kevin, I think it's that time we have some FAU students ask some questions. So why don't you bring our audience in and tell them about this new show format, and everybody watching, you could see we have an entire class full of students right now watching.
Yeah, let's see if any of them have a good question for Richelle. They can come right up here, join the show, and ask her a question about anything. She's kind of on the spot. This is streaming live, so it's a great time to ask a fun question. All right, who do we have?
Hi, my name is Lily Pickens, and I just had one question for you. Who were your biggest supporters, the people that you leaned on that inspired you to start your business and being an entrepreneur and kind of keep your mindset constantly going, besides your husband, of course?
Yeah. Lily, thank you for the question. I didn't know it then, but the people that I had the front row seats to was my grandpa and my mom. My grandpa came from the Philippines at the age of 60, and I saw him. He used to take me to school on a bike, and then he learned how to drive, and then he was the first Uber Eats. He would cook Filipino food, go to the hospitals, and literally deliver it, and I would come with him. And for me, I saw that hustle, that grit. I saw that just starting. He didn't know how to read and he didn't know how to barely speak English. Okay. But he made a business. And my parents are both nurses. Same thing. They went from the Philippines here, became nurses. And through my dad's hustle, he opened up his own nursing agency. And I saw the evolution. So that was like my inspiration that if they can do it, I was born here in the United States. I can do it too.
That's truly amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for you.
Ahmad back in studio. Welcome.
He loves this place.
What
He's
you
trying
got?
to take your co-host seat, I think.
All right.
Hi, Richelle. So earlier you mentioned that it's important for early founders and new entrepreneurs to have mentors in their journey. And so I was just curious about some of your own personal experiences finding mentors, where you found them, what specific areas they helped you in, and if you could speak more about that.
I'm gonna be honest. We didn't have any mentors. Like not in the beginning, we had each other to lean on, Google, research, and I would find people in the community that were not in the dental business. I wanted to learn business side. We didn't need to learn the teeth. So I would partner with the person doing my marketing. Hey, how do you do these ads? Facebook, once you start spending money with them, they actually give you an advertising person account. So I would pick their brain. Well, how come this didn't do well? So I started learning. Those were my mentors. And through books, John Gordon, John Maxwell, through all the founders, Sarah Blakely. I love those books because those inspired me. My friends around me, we were kind of all in the same boat. We just graduated. So those weren't our mentors. And as healthcare professionals, they're not entrepreneurs. And truthfully, the dentist world, they don't really want to share information of where they're getting patients because we're all competing against each other.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful because that means that anyone, even if they don't have access to a strong network or family members who are experienced in the industry, they can find their own mentors through books, through YouTube, ChatGPT now. So thank you for that.
And I'll add to that.
Thank you.
Mentors need to come naturally, right? A lot of people hunt for mentors, and actually most people don't have one. Often, there's paid mentors out there and everyone's like, oh, I have someone, I have a coach, but you're paying them. And it's not the same thing as the ability for me to pick up my phone and call Kevin and just ask him something general and get his opinion. So I look at it as like, I have a lot of mentors. Like Kevin's a mentor to me, for example. I could be a mentor to him in certain situations. And often, it's the ability to pick up a phone and just be able to call them naturally versus having to set up a meeting 4 weeks out. Right. And it's really hard to sometimes find one because a lot of people hunt, but everyone talks about this on podcasts all the time. Like, get a mentor. But it's like so many people I meet struggle to be like, well, how do I exactly find one? And it just means being open to a lot of people and asking. Often, if you ask someone like Richelle, hey, can you help me out, doing something, and you're genuine and you're not soliciting her, she will help you. And I think that's where a lot of young entrepreneurs get it wrong. They try to solicit and they're in it for the wrong reasons versus just truly asking for guidance. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And if Jason ever starts listening to my mentorship, he's going to take right off. It's going to be incredible.
One of these days. That's the other part of mentorship. The person's got to listen.
Hello. You mentioned something about $1 million loan earlier. So I was wondering if you can maybe expand upon just how loans are secured like that, or how the spending works with it, like where you allocating different parts of the loan, things like
Great
that.
question.
Perfect. So for dental business, because we bought the real estate and you have to ask for money for the ramp up period, right? So they give you cash in advance as well. And you have to also get the equipment. So going to the banks, you have to find out their terms, the interest rates. For the medical profession, dentists have one of the lowest default rates. So it's a little easier to get a loan because they know that dentists don't usually close down and move a lot. It's a business that you usually stay there for years because you build your name in the community. And that's one thing that I recommend. If you have a business that it's sustainable, try to buy the real estate because that is gold.
All right, wait a minute. I gotta throw the flag on this one. So if you were to do it again, doing some rough calculations in my head, $1 million, and you bought the property, it doesn't sound like you started with enough capital. Would you have done a larger loan?
You know what? No. I mean, we didn't have enough capital running, but
That's
you had
kinda what I'm
3
thinking.
months. We
Yeah.
had literally a 3 to 4 month runway. We had savings from me working. So right out of school, he worked for someone. I worked for someone. I had a 401k. I literally liquidated it all. Like, we went and jumped into the deep end of a pool with steel boots.
Yeah. So
Renegades.
are one of you the main risk taker? Are you both risk takers, or did you not view it as that risky? Which was it?
Okay, so I will definitely say that my husband is more of the risk taker. I was always very conservative. I think it's also my Asian background. But now that we've been in business, the more higher risk, the higher reward. But it is a lot more stressful. And I mean, we just kind of we knew that there was a gap in our industry. Back in 2011, there was nobody seeing children with special needs, children on state Medicaid insurance, and everybody thought we were crazy. Even all our friends, people were like, no, you know what? Don't even build out all the 8 operatories. Start with 5 because we don't think you guys could fill this place. But when you have a passion and you have a vision for something and you know that there's a need, I mean, yeah, we definitely took a risk. That's why we moved in with my parents as well.
And can you share the back end, the exit side of things?
Yeah.
Right. You grew this business, is quite successful, and you decided to sell and then start a new chapter, of course. So share both sides of that.
Yeah. You know what happened? The market became saturated. So we came in at the right time and we were the people trailblazing. So all our competitors started looking at us and saying, well, if they're growing this fast, let's start doing the same thing. Number one. Number two, for every single person listening, you need to take care of your mental health. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak. And mental health, my husband, openly speaks about it, suffering from, depression, sleepless nights, and even health issues. And so within the 10 years, I mean, it was like our best year And we had to decide health over wealth. Like, how much more do we want to grow? We have 3 young kids, and the opportunity arose, and we said, you know what? We've done our job in this, especially in our community. We've opened the doors. We've served over 50,000 kids, and now there's way more dentists that they can go to. So it was, I believe that everybody has their golden period, and so that's when we decided to exit, because we decided it was time for us to start a new leaf.
Okay, so some questions on that, maybe a little bit later stage for the students in here today, but for our other listeners out there that may own businesses, the value of a business is oftentimes correlated with how important the owner is, right? And the owner in this case is a dentist. So if he's integral or essential to the business, sometimes it can be really difficult to sell it for a high value unless he's going to stay on as maybe the head dental practitioner. How did you address that? Did you transition to other dentists? Did he stay on with the project? How did that work?
No, so we have a principle called the GFB principle, and that is how we stay sane and prioritize our life. It's God, family, and business. So we already set up the business so that it wasn't called the Peña Pediatric Group. It was meant to have many doctors working with us, and we didn't own a job. We owned a business. So at the time that we exited, we had 18 doctors, and my husband was only working at a certain office doing sedation. And can you believe it? He was not required to stay on board because it wasn't his name, and every office had 2 to 3 doctors.
Yeah, so you had the foresight. You didn't have to deal with those issues.
Nope.
I have so many founders that come to me with these issues, and it's like, well, you are the business,
Right.
so like you can't really. You're still going to have the job. You might have a little more cash, but that's pretty interesting and also rare and unique. And can I presume, in terms of the exit, was it to private equity?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they've been buying up a lot of dental places and
But it's
veterinarians.
ours is a DSO. It's a dental service organization. So it's a group backed by private equity, but they own a bunch of pediatric dental offices. So it's our specialty. What's great about them, though, is that they're able to help our team members have better benefits. Where they're also streamlined our processes. And, I've asked a lot of team members, the majority of our doctors are still there, the office managers, and their feedback was like, wow, it's like really organized, and it's been a really good transition.
Yeah, I'm glad you flagged that one, right? Because when you say private equity, a certain crowd will immediately have a negative reaction and think, oh, that dental place is probably no good. But private equity gets a really bad rap. Like sometimes it's really about improving efficiencies and benefits and doing something at a bigger scale so you can do it even better,
Yes.
right? Better customer experiences. That said, there are some private equity groups that specialize in more of like a harvest strategy where they come in and they cut all the costs, they reduce the staff, but they're totally different things. There are different scenarios, there are different industry trends that dictate what needs to be done across different industries, and that's not consistent. So you really need to understand which group, what they're doing, and how it works. And it sounds like you made a great decision.
Yeah, we interviewed them. We actually went to their headquarters in Atlanta. It's our baby. So, and it was our team that we cared so much about and our patients. So we weren't just going to sell to someone with dollar signs. They needed to have a core admin team, which they do. It's led by a pediatric dentist. They don't, dictate how work is done. But it was to improve efficiencies, and they had the same core vision and mission as us to help more children.
And then tell us, how many months did you take off before jumping right back into business? Because we see this as a common thing.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to sell my business, walk away with millions of dollars and chill, right? Go to a beach resort in Mexico, wherever you decide to vacation. But that's not the case typically, right? Most people have the itch and they go back.
Exits, they only make it 6 months. 6 months, they're usually like, man, this is boring.
So tell us, how many months?
Yeah, it was sad, because you would think, oh my God, we exited, we're set. I felt like I had no purpose, and I took about 6 months, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I want to write a book about my journey, because when you're working with your husband and raising a family, sometimes it can get crazy. And I would Google how to work with your husband, how to be the wife of a
how to
CEO.
murder your husband.
Yeah,
I think that's what-
exactly.
think
I
that
mean,
was
I
the
quit
truth there.
twice. I think he fired me once. Let me tell you, but we both knew we needed each other. And so there are books out there that teach you about business. There are books out there that teach you about relationships, but I haven't found a book that like ours, The Power Couple. And it's truly, my journey was, I want to give back. I want to teach you guys how to have a life and also manage a business. And so within 6 months, I was done. I was like, I feel like I have no purpose. You know when it happened? New Year's. We went around the table and we talked about, what did we accomplish this year? And that year, I hadn't accomplished anything, which was weird. I mean, every year we were always accomplishing something, and I felt empty, lack of purpose. And so that's why we decided to open another business.
Nice. Well, why don't we give Richelle a pitch and then wrap this show up? What do you think, Jason?
Let's go for it.
All right. So this is a segment on the show that sometimes we do where we'll give you a business pitch, and the students can hear the pitch as well and rate their opinions of the product. So this one's kind of related to the medical field, generally speaking. The name of the company is a tech runway company. It's called Clean Box. Any guesses on what they do?
Laundry?
No, that's a good guess, though.
Clean Box. Something with a phone. It cleans your phone. Clean Box. I don't know.
Oh, man. I'm working with
I'm
all
out.
these startups with all these crazy names. When I guessed initially, I guessed something way more inappropriate. In any case, the product itself is a fully automated bathing tub. Right, and I'll tell you what they're getting at here. Right, it's for elderly people who are living in facilities that are typically battling sickness and illness, and they have mobility problems, and they don't get baths enough, and they end up with bed sores, and they end up needing additional treatments. So the product is fully autonomous. You get in, and it washes you.
Like your whole body?
Yeah, absolutely. It has a door. It's like a tub.
Does it have like this arm that comes and like scrubs?
But is somebody
It
putting
usually-
the person in there because someone in this situation
You may or
can't get
may
in?
not need
Can't
help
get in.
getting in, but it depends on how much your lack of mobility is.
So is it a box that they have to take out your existing shower, put it in?
It's designed
a
for
framework?
facilities where people are. So you wouldn't probably have it in your house. You might be at a hospital, a longer term care facility.
Assisted living facility,
Mhm.
right? Where
Yeah.
they
And-
have to.
But don't
have
they
a
have
nurse.
assistants? So is it did they invent this so that they can not have as many assistants? Like at Publix, I don't know. I didn't know I became the fastest bagger in the world because I have to do everything myself. So what problem are they trying to solve?
That the people aren't being bathed well or consistently.
I understand it
enough.
completely.
Yeah.
Because when my father, went through this and we had a caregiver, it's a pain in the butt. She's
Right.
holding him up and like scrubbing with the scrub brush. It's not easy. So I completely understand
So
the
this
logic
came up
here. You're
last
putting
night.
you're
Whoever-
putting someone in, but that's where you need assistance to then.
Right.
Where I see the hard part is like, getting someone who's standing and getting them into the tub to begin with. That's the challenge.
Well, it has a door that opens.
Yeah. But if can the person
So you don't
sit-
have to go like over the side.
Okay.
You can
But
just-
I understand where they're going with this. I'm a
Everybody
thumbs up on this. I like
Everyone
it.
who's had a parent in that scenario
Yeah.
gets it immediately.
I
is
get
a
it.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
I mean, my husband just tore his Achilles tendon. I know it's nothing like what elderly go to, but let me tell you, I had to buy everything, that the shower chair. I mean, all of that stuff to help take him a bath.
I was always
so-
concerned my father was going to fall.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I watched them doing this. I was like, wow.
You have
like,
to have a
like,
bench.
She's holding him up with this, and I just couldn't believe. I'm like, this is the process. So I actually love the idea.
Yeah. Wait, is there a seat that comes with it?
You kind of like laid back in it
I
while
get
it
it.
washes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a chair. It's like going to the
Yeah.
bathroom.
And-
Same
Mhm.
process.
And for caregivers, I mean, my grandma broke her hip and that's it. She couldn't walk anymore after that. And my grandpa, he was just as old. I mean, imagine young people trying to take care. They're heavy. You
Yeah.
can drop them And I think it's,
I like the idea. Just to
Yeah.
hate the name.
yeah.
The name is off.
Okay. Well, those stories were kind of a downer. So let's ask one more question from the class that I just saw coming in. How did you manage your finances at the beginning of the business? Like, it
Mhm.
sounded like it was really tricky. Did you have a set limit on, like, okay, we have personal that like we can't go to? You already mentioned, right, that you had to go back to work. What was the overall plan or kind of strategy? And then did you stick to it? Tell us about it.
Yes. The number one, we made a huge mistake. And this is why we're so adamant at being mentors, building a community. We did not know or understand how to read our numbers, profit and loss. We relied on our CPA, but our CPA couldn't tell us, where we needed to cut costs, how much, dental supplies would be this percentage. And that's part of the reason why, within the first 3 years, we actually almost went out of business until we both decided, okay, we have to understand our numbers, daily metrics every day, and our finances. He wasn't getting paid in the beginning, but then we had to draw a salary. It was very, very difficult. Then for a large portion of our income, everything that would come in, we would put it back into the business and just have enough to pay our bills, eat, and live. I mean, we didn't even buy our first home until about 5 years into the business. So, I mean, it was a lot of sacrifices, and a lot of people see, oh yeah, 8-figure exit, your success was overnight. I was far, far from it.
And I'm going to touch on this for a second. When it comes to accountants, financial service providers, everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to speak to those folks to help me in business. And
Yeah.
that can be further from the truth. When you're running a business, you never talk to those professionals, on a regular basis. You speak to your accountant usually once or twice a year, right? And they bill you, quite large sum if you want to pick their brain.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time you're doing it yourself, right? They're just doing your return, right? They're looking in reverse. Maybe financial advisors are looking forward and planning, but they're dealing with more stocks, bonds, retirement planning, but no one is really helping you on the day-to-day activities with your finances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too often people think, oh, just hire an expert and you'll get that support. And that's just not the case. Every single entrepreneur that I've ever met that's successful knows their numbers inside and out. So it's very important it's you. You're the number person.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of all I was going to say. From an academic perspective, perhaps some of the students even already recognize this. CBAs aren't going to help with that because accounting is very much backwards looking. It's what's already happened. Well, Richelle, you can't do anything about that. Here's your numbers for the last 6 months, and you're horrified, but well, it's too late for that. So really, finance is the thing that's forward looking, but these small companies can't afford to have a CFO. So yeah, Jason's right. The founder does need to know the numbers. I also encourage founders to think about having a fractional CFO for a time so they can train you, because at the end of the day, he's right. It should be you, but you may need someone to teach you about kind of your own numbers. The service I like is Forecaster. They do a pretty good job of offering reasonably priced fractional CFO, and it is more consistent, right? And it's not a longer term residual. It is paid per, meeting per hour, which is not cheap, but they're the cheapest around because they're all digital and they're all over the United States, and they're kind of designed for startups. They would have helped you a lot.
Yeah, no, we actually ended up, years into it, we actually brought in a CFO that helped every month put the numbers together. But what really changed the game for us, it was looking at daily metrics. Because we didn't do that for probably about 3 years. It was crazy. And so you're at the end of the month, you're like, oh, we're in the red. But it's because the month was already, like you mentioned, the month already passed. The CPA is not going to tell us. So that was a big mistake, and which is why we're so adamant teaching know your numbers just as much as you know your business. It's just equally as important, because if you don't know your numbers, you can have all this money coming in, but think about it. If you spend more than you make, what happens? You're in the red.
Well, you clearly figured it out. It's an excellent job and an excellent story. So thanks for coming and joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Kevin, take us home. Anything we should know about events coming with FAU before we wrap up today's episode?
Veterans programs coming up. If you're a veteran business owner out there, sign up now. Other than that, there's some fun events coming and some news pending that I shared with Jason, but that hasn't been released yet. Then I'll share later on. Tech Runway is onboarding a new class of companies. There's always exciting things there. Podfest.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's this weekend, so I'll be there. Jason
Your
will be
first
there.
time.
Up in
I'm excited
Orlando.
to see you learn from some of the pros.
Oh, I can't wait. More microphones, more shows. Wonderful.
Well, my 2 cents is everybody listening. If you want to be a guest, reach out to us. Our website is shrimptankpodcast.com. And we have a classroom of FEU students. It's part of their curriculum. We're one of the first podcasts that actually baked it into the podcast. And a lot of these students want internships. They want careers. So go ahead and shoot us a message and come join us on the podcast. And if you want to reach out to Richelle, her contact info is all over this episode. Just reach out to her through the DMs and ask for help. She's willing to give it, and she'll help you get part of a community. She's part of many different ones on the internet, in person, down here in South Florida. Take care, everybody. We will be back next Wednesday at 1 p.m.